This video is sponsored by Dashlane. Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a cybersecurity logo animation inside of After Effects without using any plugins. Now this tutorial is a bit long but full of really cool techniques, so make sure you stay tuned throughout the complete process so you can learn those cool techniques and create your amazing cool logo animation. So with that said, I am Nikhil from DOPEMOTIONS, and without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start by creating a new composition. Let's call this main, and I'll go with a custom 1920 by 1080. Let's make this 30 fps and 10 seconds long. Hit OK. Let's create a new composition which is going to be a logo placeholder where we can drag and drop in any logo that we want. So I'm going to call this logo your comp. Hit OK. And the first thing that we will be creating is the grid animation for our logo reveal. So to do that, let's create one more composition called this grid. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Let's hit Ctrl Y to create a new solid. I'm going to call this grid again. And then we can easily add the grid effect on this. So I'll just hit OK. Go into effects and preset and type in grid. So I think this was the CC grid wipe. Yep, that was the effect that I'm going for. So let's basically animate this. So I'll go somewhere around at the beginning and set this to 100. Also make sure you reverse the transition, create a keyframe, go to around 2 seconds and 10 frames and set this to 0. So basically we have a very simple grid reveal. I think I'll increase the borders a bit to around 100. And let's also increase the tiling to 25. So we get this really nice grid reveal pattern. And we will be using this animation as a track mat for our logo. So in the main composition, I'm gonna drag in my logo your comp and also my grid on the top. In the logo your comp, I will drag and drop in the logo that I want to use. You can of course use any logo that you want to use for this. I'm going to just scale this up by 300%. That looks much better. Let's go back into our main comp, and then I'll change the track mat option to alpha mat. Now if you don't see the track mat option, you can hit F4 to reveal the option, and now we should have something like this. Pretty cool. Now to create a more detailed effect, we can use the layering technique. And by that, what I mean is let's select both the layers, hit Ctrl D, and then displace this layer by 10 frames. Let's hit Ctrl D again and displace this one by 10 frames. Just like so. Also, I'll select the third one, that is the bottom one, hit S and scale this up a bit. Just like maybe around 130% should be good, and hit T to bring down the opacity. Let's bring that down really low, like maybe 12%. So we have something like this. And then on this one, I'm going to use a curves effect to make it a bit more darker. Let's double click to apply that up, and let's pull this down just like so. So now you can see we have a little bit of variation in our reveal, and that looks pretty cool actually. So I'll go to 1 second. Let's hit S to bring down the scale properties, create a keyframe, go to 2 seconds, and let's actually bring this back to 100. So I'll select the keyframes and hit F9 to ease those keyframes. So now we have this really nice reveal. Now I think it's a bit too fast, so I'll go to 3 seconds and move this keyframe to 3 seconds. So let's really quickly preview this. And yeah, that looks pretty much what I'm going for. Maybe tweak this keyframes a bit. Okay, perfect. So there we have our grid reveal for our logo. Now let's select all the composition, hit Ctrl Shift C and pre-compose this. Let's rename this to something like, let's call this logo pattern. hit OK. There we go. That is looking pretty good. Let's create a nice background for this. So hit Ctrl Y to create a new solid, call this BG. Make this black, hit OK. Let's put this at the bottom, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, and I'm gonna add a ramp effect on this so we can add a bit more light into our background instead of keeping it completely flat. So I'll switch this to radial ramp, put this right over here maybe, and this one right here actually. So something like this should work. Let's increase the ramp scatter to 200 so we can avoid any kind of color bendings. Now it's going to introduce some noise into our scene, but what we will be doing is let's swap the colors and change the white color to a nice darker blue, just a touch. So you can see we get a nice kind of a light leak at the bottom. You can always tweak the settings to, get the desired look, and now you can see we don't get any kind of color bendings. Now if you still get even a little color bendings, what you can do is you can switch to 16 bits per channel. So you can hold Alt and click on this icon, so it's gonna switch to 16 bits, and now you should not get any kind of color bendings. I'll tweak this one a bit, just like that, and yeah, that is looking pretty good. Let's also animate this. So I'll go to 1 second, select the ramp, gradient ramp BG layer, hit T, create a keyframe, go back, add 0, and let's set this to 0. Select the keyframes, hit F9 to ease them, and now we have a pretty simple light reveal as well. Now I want my logo to start animating from 1 second, so I'm gonna pull back this layer just like that. So now the light appears and then our logo appears, but now we need to add a nice camera movement to our logo to make it look really cool. So what we can do is hit F4 and turn on 3D to make the layer into a 3D layer, hit P to bring down the position, and let's pull this back to around, maybe let's go with 575. And also I'm gonna create a new camera. So let's go with 35 millimeters, looks good, hit OK. Let's actually pull this up and let's create a new null object, called this cam control. Make it 3D. Also I'm gonna actually, before making it 3D, let's align it into the center and also move the anchor point to the center. And to do that, you can hold Control and double click on the pan behind tool, so it's gonna move the anchor point into the center, or you can use the move anchor point script if you have that. So this is looking good. Let's make this 3D, and now let's parent the camera to our cam control layer. Now if you don't see this parent option, you can click right here, go into columns and turn on the parent and link option. So now our camera is parented to this null object. Now we can animate the camera using this null object. So let's go around to 4 seconds, hit P to bring down the position, create a keyframe and go all the way back to 1 second. And let's maybe actually, to get an idea of where we are, I'll just move this right here and let's zoom in the camera. So I'll go to around maybe 2500 should be good. Yep, that looks good. Now let's move this keyframe at the very beginning, that is 1 second. So now we have this really nice animation, as you can see. Also, I'm going to add a little bit of rotation to this. So hit R to bring down the rotation properties, create a keyframe on the Z rotation or Z rotation, go back and set this to 25. So now we have this little bit of rotation with the zoom out. Okay, that is looking pretty good. Let's hide this. All right. There we go. So there we are done with the logo. Now, as we guys are talking about security here, let me take a minute and introduce you guys to Dashlane. Talking about cybersecurity, I personally think that it is extremely important to keep your online data and files secure with a good password manager, and Dashlane is a perfect fit for that. It is a desktop and a mobile application designed to make the most irritating and risky part of your digital life simple and safe. The best part is that it is absolutely free for your first device. Dashlane is a password manager and a digital wallet. You can use Dashlane to generate and save strong and complex password for every single account you own. You also get VPN access with the premium membership, so you can browse safely on unsecured private networks. It also allows you to store encrypted files like scans of passports, insurance cards, or contracts, so you can always have important documents accessible but secure. You can safely store your passwords and digital data in the app, and you will only have to remember one single master password to log in into the application. Just download the free application on your iOS or Google Play Store and get started. You can head on to the link in the description and get a free premium Dashlane membership for an entire month. And if you enjoy using it and you wish to continue, you can get a flat 10% off premium membership using the code. So make sure to check out Dashlane. The link will be in the description. So let's add some nice little elements to this complete look or this complete logo animation to make it look more detailed and stand out. So to do that, what we will be doing is, let's select the pen tool and we can set the stroke to 0.7 pixels with a nice blue color. You can of course use any color that you like. I'm gonna hit OK. Also, let's click right here and turn on the title action safe. And I'm going to create a point or a line from the center. So I'll click right here, hold shift and click right here to create a nice stroke. Now it's not aligned into the center. So let's really quickly select this and let's properly align it into the center, just like so. So now we have this nice stroke. Let's solo that up so we can just focus on animating this line. Also make some room right here. Okay. We can turn that off. So I'll just go right here, turn off the title action safe. So now we have this nice stroke right here. Let's actually rename this to line. And let's animate this. So I'll hide the control layers by hitting Control Shift H so we can clearly see the stroke right here. Go into the properties, add a trim path. Let's click right here and add a trim path which should be at the bottom. And now we can animate this. So we can animate this really nicely by animating the end property. So I'll go somewhere around 3 seconds. Let's actually go to 4 seconds and create a keyframe on the end property by setting this to 100. Create a keyframe, go to 1 second and set this to 0. So now we have a pretty simple animation. Let's select this and make it 3D layer. And now I'm going to hit A to bring up the anchor point and set all the anchor points to 0. Not all the anchor point, it only has one anchor point, but set the properties of the anchor point to 0. So now if I hit Control Shift H to bring up my control layers, you can see now we have the anchor point set at the very edge of the stroke. So let's try to align it into the center really quick. Okay, so now as you can see, we have an issue that a layer goes out of the frame because of the camera. So we need to select this, hit P, and let's adjust the position like so, so that it always stays inside, or the camera always sees the layer. So that works pretty good. And I'm gonna actually try to position this into the center. Okay. So now you can see we have this really nice reveal. Now as you can see, the stroke doesn't really complete the frame. So to fix that, what we can do is go into the properties or the contents, select the path, select this point and let's drag it holding shift so it completes the complete line. And I think I'll set the stroke to 1 pixel. That looks much better. So as of now, we have this really nice animation. Okay, that is looking pretty good, but one thing that I really don't like is how the stroke starts up. So it's a bit too thick for the liking. So I'll set the position to around 1000. That looks much better. Again, we need to fix the path here. So I'll select the layer, hit U 2 times, select the path, select this point, and let's drag it. Now let's create some more copies of this. So I'll select this, hit Control D, hit U 2 times to reveal all the properties, select the path, and let's drag this like so, holding Shift. So now we have this really nice reveal. As you can see, looks pretty cool. And let's repeat the same process again. So I'm going to select this, hit Control D, hit U 2 times, select the path, and let's actually keep it something like that. And there we go. So let's hit Control A and hit U so we can close them all up. So now you can see we have this really nice stroke animation. Looks super cool. Now let's actually turn on all the layers. Let's put the lines below our logo pattern, so they look really cool. Also, I'm going to bring down the opacity a bit of them. Let's hit Control Shift H so we can see just the strokes. Keep it very minimal, like 40%. Looks pretty good to me. So as you can see, we get this really nice animation, and that is looking pretty cool. So now let's actually hit Control A to select all the layers and hit U to reveal all the keyframes that we have. I'm going to select all these keyframes except the background one, select them, hit F9, go into the graph editor, and let's select this and drag the handle to the left holding Shift. So we get a really nice animated movement for our logo. As you can see, looks very nice. Now to add a little bit of more digital, effect or feel to the complete theme, what I can do is let's create a new composition, call this dots, and hit OK. Let's hit Control Y to create a new solid, call this dots, and I can keep it white, hit OK. Let's add the grid on this. There we go. Let's actually bring down the border size really low. Also, I want to invert the grid. So what we can do is actually set the size from to corner point to width and height sliders. So now we get this nice width and height sliders. I don't know, cannot see anything really. Okay, let's bring down the borders really small and invert the grid, and let's make it something like, I don't know, something like 30, and set this one to something like 30 as well. So now we have this nice dots. Let's pre-compose this, hit Control Shift C, call this dot pattern, move all attributes, hit OK, and then I'll hit Control Y to create a new solid, call this fractal. Let's go into effects and preset and type in fractal noise. And now we can create a nice pattern for our dots to animate. So let's change the fractal type from basic to something like, let's go with rocky, and set the noise type from soft linear to blocks. Also, I'm going to increase the contrast to 320 and bring down the brightness to around -50. Everything else looks good. Let's go into the transform properties and increase the scale to maybe somewhere around, this looks good. And then we can animate the evolution. So I can simply hold Alt and click on the stopwatch and add an expression called times times time times. Let's go with something like 80. So now we have this really simple animation. And then what I can do is let's select this and change the track matte of the dot pattern. So hit F4 to reveal the track matte option and set this to Luma matte. So now we have this really nice pattern animation, as you can see. Looks really interesting. Let's go back into our main comp and drag and drop the dots composition on the top. Just like so. Make it 3D. Hit P and I'll go somewhere around maybe there. Let's bring that out of the frame. I think something like this should work to create a nice depth into the scene. Yep, that looks much better. Hit S and scale that down so we get the desired look. And also we can simply add a nice fill to this. Let's pick the same color from our logo and there we go. Nice small details to add in the background. That looks cool. Now finally let's add some text to this. So select the text tool. You can of course type in anything that you want. I'm using the Beyond font. So let's type in something like cyber security. There we go. Let's select this and make this white. So now you can see we have a bit more variation into our text. So I'll select that, align it into the center. Let's place it somewhere around there, make it a 3D so it interacts with our camera. As you can see, looks really nice. And let's go ahead and add some nice little animation to our text as well. So let's select this, solo that up so we can just focus on our text. Let's go into the animate and add an opacity animation and add a property of let's go with something like character offset. That should work. Let's bring the character offset all the way up to something like 100 and bring down the opacity to 0. And now we can basically animate the range selector just like that. Actually, the offset of the range selector. That makes much more sense. So let's go to around 4 seconds. Set this to 100, set the offset to 100, create a keyframe, go back to somewhere around there, and let's bring that down to 0. So now we have a really nice animation. As you can see, maybe I'll bring the keyframe to 3 seconds. That looks much better. Let's see the complete animation so far. Yep, that is looking pretty good. Maybe I'll bring down the opacity of the dots a bit. There we go. So there we go. There you have your very interesting and cool looking cybersecurity logo animation inside of After Effects without using any plugins. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, then please do subscribe, comment and like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and always stay raw, stay creative.